Okay, I'm Janus Haasbroek. For those that there is actually a few people here that I've met before, but I'm vice president of the Project Management Institute, this local chapter, specifically with academic outreach. And this is part of our program to reach out to various academic institutions and also to reach out to members of the PMI that are members of the PMI, but that is not located in Gauteng, because typically we know that we are, you don't really get enough exposure to our activities because the numbers, the geographic dispersion is just too great. So that is why the invite went out to all the other PMI members as well. And as Dion suggested, part of what I want to do here, just maybe to quickly set the agenda, I'm going to talk for 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to open up the floor. And I want to know from you, what do you need from the PMI where you are currently situated? How can we engage with you? How can we help you in your project management profession and in your career to further your work environment and your growth? So I'm just going to go quickly through what the PMI actually is for those that don't have all the details or don't know that, and then we'll get to the rest of the program as we go along. Okay, so PMI is short for the Project Management Institute. It's a professional association for project management, for the project management profession. Was founded in 1969, so it is getting close on 50 years now. The services include, it is first of all a volunteer organization. There is a membership fee, but that membership fee is in order to keep the offices open. There is a small administrative staff in the US, but in as far as the executive part of the organization goes, all of that is done on a volunteer basis. For that reason, it's also a non-for-profit. So all the membership fees that are paid it doesn't go to anybody outside of the PMI. It is used to further the profession itself. Services include compilation of standards. The PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge, is actually the document from the PMI. That is one of several body of knowledge documents, but the PMBOK is the best known one. We're currently on the 6th edition. 6th edition came out earlier this year. So, and that is to a large extent the accepted project management guideline for the world. The current membership that is now globally is about 480,000 project managers in 207 countries. But now everybody's going to ask me, but why is there almost double that number of PMPs? The reason is a lot of people join the PMI, get their PMP, and then don't renew their membership. Because you don't need to be a member of the PMI to have a project management professional certification. However, the PMI do provide this certification outside of the organization itself, but they provide the standards in order to get the PMP certification. So as of May 2016, there was 710,000 PMP holders. What exactly a PMP entails, we get to that a bit later on. For now, that is the flagship certification. It's a project management professional certification that you can get from the PMI. As far as the South African chapter goes, it is a fully accredited chapter of the Project Management Institute. So we are the local representatives of the Project Management Institute. We go through quite a stringent process every year to get recertified or reaccredited. As I mentioned, it is completely volunteer-based. There is a fee if you join the chapter. There is a fee involved, but once again, that is only to facilitate operations. I don't get paid for standing in front of you today. Membership in South Africa is currently around 900. We are growing quite rapidly, and our target is to pass 1,000 by the end of the year. And it looks like we're getting there. At the moment, there's three chapter branches, one in Johannesburg, one in Cape Town, and one in Durban. We also have a satellite branch in Port Elizabeth, and depending on what you guys tell me, we want to start one in Bloemfontein and get, in that way, involve the other provinces as well. Outreach activities specifically, as I mentioned, my specific role is outreach to higher education providers, and then to engage with the students. The important part for me is when you embark on your project management career, very often you are the only project manager at your employer. So who do you turn to for help? And that is the role that the PMI wishes to fulfill, to provide mentoring, to provide assistance when that is needed. Secondly, we want to do outreach to the corporates. I actually want to engage, if possible, if you are willing to let me, to engage with your employer. The PMI certifications is not that well known in South Africa for various historic reasons, and we want to engage with the employer in order to make it better, well known, and to actually provide through that some advantages to you as a PMP holder in the end. And then, as I've already mentioned, outreach to the provinces, excluding now the three big ones. We already have chapters, but to get the other members, because if you're a member, you pay a yearly fee, you need to get something back for that fee. And I want to add that value. And there is other members of our board that will be specifically engaging in, for example, professional development meetings where we are looking at helping you getting certified, etc. Workshops, that kind of thing. Okay, so for my viewpoint, outreach objectives: to provide assistance to aspirant project managers to get your professional status. In other words, how can I help you to get a PMP, to qualify as a project manager? Provide mentoring assistance. Okay, so now you have a PMP and you run into difficulties. It's a new field. You don't really have backup from your boss. What do you do? And then also increase the public awareness. We are embarking on, you might have seen on the table in front, there's a flyer of a publication that was done in Engineering Weekly, Monthly, where we actually are promoting the PMI. On the 19th of February, we will have a PM Summit, which is, that's 19th February next year, naturally, PM Summit in Johannesburg, where we are engaging with the public to make the PMI better known and to get that engagement with the rest of the country and with your employers. You're all welcome to attend the summit, and I can provide you with information. It is actually on the flyer where you can book your ticket if you want to have a week in Johannesburg. Okay, and this is the important part. So, what is the advantages of a certification for a project manager? First of all, you become part of a worldwide community. And that community gives you access to online resources. If you join the PMI, you actually get access to online resources such as international conventions that you can watch online then, education, ongoing education in your field. And then also the other thing which we are starting to see in South Africa as well, that quote there from the project management salary survey that was done worldwide, but that is happening in South Africa as well. If you actually have a PMP, it's not that when you get your PMP, you can walk into your boss's office and say, well, I want 20% more now because I've got a PMP. But you tend to get better opportunities. And the reason for that is, in my personal experience, it's not necessarily that this is now extra letters you can add at the back of your name, and for that reason you get better jobs. But the reason is you've got the background. You can get to the solution quicker, and for that reason you become more employable. You might have to look at a different option for employment, but at least you have that opportunity to grow. From the employer's perspective, I don't know if there's any employers here, but it has been found that the moment you increase the number, let's say you've got a PMO of 10 people, if a third of them have PMPs, you actually see the difference in project execution. You start seeing that all of a sudden where only 10% of projects were successful, that increases to more than 50% of projects become successful. So there is grounds, and I can go through that detail and provide you with various documents where that has been found internationally. Okay, so let's look at the PMP itself. The PMP, that's the Project Management Professional Certification. Prerequisite, you need a 4-year degree, 4,500 hours of project management experience. Now, I'll just go through the list and then explain to you what exactly that means. 35 hours of project management education, face-to-face project management education. And typically the course that Dion is giving that qualifies as for that 35 hours. Okay, and then what we do as a chapter is to provide you with that support to actually get that certification. It's a computer-based examination based on the 6th edition PMBOK. So what happens is you need to go to an examination center. You sit down in front of a computer. They give you 4 hours and 400 questions, multi-choice. I can see those that have done the PMP certification. It's not easy, but it's possible. I've done it. The good thing is, once you've done it, you don't need to do it again. Because after that, there's a PDU system, PDU, Professional Development Units. So that's your typical continued education type scenario. So you can do your 60 PDUs per 3-year cycle, which means you need to attend classes, meetings like this, 60 hours in total over the 3-year period. And if you do that, you can keep on renewing your PMP every year, every 3 years. If you fail to do that, unfortunately, your PMP lapses and you'll have to sit the exam again. To give you an example, I don't need to do PDUs for the mere simple fact that there's an online source. I can go and watch a video. Very often when I travel, I'm in a different country. I'm not interested in their news. So I put the video onto the TV in the hotel room, and I watch it. And within 3 years, my cycle is due in 3 months from now. I qualified for that cycle a year ago already. So it is not that difficult to do. It just takes a little bit of dedication, but it is possible to get the 60 PDUs. So that is the one certification that we're looking at. The second one is the CAPM, Certified Associate in Project Management. So the difference between the PMP and a CAPM, it's exactly the same questions, but the CAPM is more targeted at people that are not necessarily project managers. Typically, the people you are looking at is your MBA type manager or a lawyer that specifically wants to work with projects. So the CAPM basically prepares you with the theory behind the PMP, behind the project management, but not necessarily, you don't need the experience. If you look at the prerequisites, the big difference is you don't need 4,500 hours of PMP, of project management experience. For me personally, I actually did the CAPM first. I have a CAPM, well, it expires after 5 years, but I had a CAPM, and then I started doing project management, and because of that opening that the CAPM caused, I was able to qualify later on for a PMP. The nice part of it is it's the same work, so you don't have to study it all over again. However, you have to sit the exam the second time for the PMP. It does prepare you very well for that exam. You know what to expect, at least. So that is basically, and the prerequisites is a secondary degree, high school diploma, and 1,500 hours of project management, of project experience. So that is the one option. However, the second option is if you go to a REP and you do a course in project management, you don't need the experience. So it just gives you that backing for the knowledge that is required. The one piece of advice I have to give is the PMBOK is it's a difficult document to go through. It's not easy to do. It's not something you read over a weekend. So I would suggest, well, you need the 23 hours of education in any case. If you want to do a PMP, to contact a registered education provider, and then to do a course through them, because that goes through the process of actually getting the knowledge and structuring the knowledge correctly for you in the future. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to add a little bit extra now. So part of the reason why I am here today is I want to reach out to the members or the people that are currently in this room. We are in the process of setting up various facilitated meetings, specifically training meetings, and we are also in the process of setting up mentoring environments and so forth. Specifically, we see that project management is becoming more and more important, and at the moment we are failing at it. That is the biggest problem. We are failing at managing our projects. This is on a statewide basis, but also in business. Very few of the projects actually are successful. And for that reason, we want to, first of all, I always say anything can be a project. The definition of a project is it is something unique that has an end date. So breakfast is a project, according to that definition, because you're not going to have the same breakfast today as you had yesterday. It's going to be a new breakfast. It might still be bacon and eggs, but it's going to be a new breakfast. We don't really want to make it that simple, but anything in life is a project. If you are organizing a a function at work. That becomes a project. And the skills that you can get as a project manager provide you with ways in which you can look at doing these things in life. However, when you start working with other people's money, and when you start working with general resources, the backing or the knowledge of best practices becomes very important. And there are a lot of pitfalls that we keep on falling into. And it's the same pitfalls all over again, over and over and over. And if we can start branching out and getting this information to other people around us and to a bigger forum, then we can start, it's a life skill, and we can start building that life skill. So part of the list that you signed in on today, I don't know if you noticed, there was we were asking for your email address and also for your employer, the name of your employer. Part of what we want to do is we want to actually reach out to the employer as well to facilitate with them to understand what exactly the fact that you are now a project manager means and what is the advantages you as a project manager can bring to them. So if you haven't filled in the register, please do so. Roger has it in the back if there's anybody that still needs to fill it in. And then also, if you want to be contacted, also add your contact details. By a show of hands, and I'm going to give it over now to you for questions as well, but just before we start with that, by a show of hands, if we were to start something like a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group, who would actually be, and this is not to post your weekend braai photos in. That's not why we want it. To actually assist you with questions, if you have a specific question. So first of all, can I see who would be interested in something like that? It looks like it's pretty general. And as I say, this is an outreach from the Project Management Institute to assist you in your work environment. The second question, also just by a show of hands, we are planning to maybe repeat this meeting in future on a 3-monthly or a 6-monthly basis. Would you, and the next time it won't be me talking, it will be actually somebody else talking, giving you a bit more of a project management course or a subject, discussing a subject on project management. So if we have future meetings, it will probably be here at the business school. What is your availability? Would you be interested? And can I send you an email for an invite? No. There is actually, you can claim PDUs for this meeting as well.
IT project management,
Yes.
which is, yes, your project manager should be able to manage any type of project, but it does help sometimes to be
If you have a, yeah.
That is in the IT.
Yeah. Just on that, yes, I agree with you. It's often said that any project management is project management. So if I managed building a bridge, I can manage IT project as well. Unfortunately, project management is a multi-layered environment. Yes, you need the project management. You need to know how to draw up a schedule. You need to know how to draw up a project plan. But you also need the technical skills behind it. So if you are in IT, you need, if you're managing an IT project, you also need the IT background. So there is a little bit of specialization. We are looking at, I'm an IT professional myself. So first of all, there is various different, over and above the PMP, there are other certifications, specifically for the IT, there's an Agile certification as well. For other industries, there's a risk certification as well. So that, to a certain extent, addresses your question. In the on the international side, so if you become a member of the PMI, you get access to a website, projectmanagement.com, and there are interest groups where you can get specific information or specific help on specific subjects. And I know one of them is actually to do with, I'm a member of the IT group. So there is specific help in that regard. Then also when we get to the mentoring side, one of our board members is currently building a mentoring team. You can be a mentor, or you can be a mentee. And it's actually what we find is normally the mentors learn just as much as the mentees, because you get exposed to something different that you weren't exposed to previously. But specifically, one of the criteria that we are looking at is, what is your industry? So we're looking for, the matchup must be within the same industry where possible. So that there's that as well.
There's not a possibility that if you do create that LinkedIn group also, that we could maybe within that group start
smaller groups, yes, yeah. And typically the type of questions that I expect to be there will be around certain topics. And they typically will be, some of them might be more generic, and some of them might be specific to a specific industry. So, and part of it is we will be pulling in those mentors that have the experience in the specific industries to actually assist with answering the questions.
Perhaps you can get an ETL on the mobile app for the PMI that we
I'm waiting. I'm actually asking for that same thing. We are, at the moment for the summit, we are looking at a mobile app for the summit, and that app will then be for the PMI itself, for the local chapter of the PMI. We have asked a question from the PMI International, but I haven't received an answer on that yet. Yeah, no, we're definitely working on that, and that will also be, it will be more focused on the events, to organize the events, to get some information out on when the events are happening and so forth, but then also to create groups. Yes, to specific, yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, we are definitely looking at that as well. Unfortunately, I don't have an ETL for you yet.
just keep on bugging.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? The rest of the room has been rather quiet. All the IT guys have asked.
So when are we going to do the freestyle chapter?
Sorry?
When are we going to do the freestyle chapter?
Okay. Actually, thank you for the for the leading question. As I mentioned, the chapter is volunteer run. So the problem you have with starting a chapter is you need volunteers in the city or town that you are running the chapter in. So typically, what we did in PE is we got a volunteer to what we call them activity coordinators. We're looking for an activity coordinator that will be willing to assist in organizing the actual events. And then we need a good support base. So if we can fill a room with 40 people every second month, then we can start it. That's the basic requirements, but it's not feasible for the branch or the satellite branch will then be under the Gauteng as the main branch, under the Gauteng branch. But it's not feasible for somebody from Gauteng to travel here every time. So typically you can get your lecturer, but the people actually organizing the chapter itself, we need some local.
Well, like we being in IT, we can do a Skype session.
That's also a
So,
possibility.
yeah, keep the options open. Think broader than the.
Yeah. But that is the main reason or the main requirement to start a chapter or even a satellite chapter is we need somebody to drive it from a volunteering position, and then we need the interest from the members.
By show of hands.
Well, I've already went into that, but if you want to volunteer to,
I'll put my name down. I think I'll put these in his name. My colleague over there will also
yeah.
be willing to assist.
Yeah, no, it's first meeting to see.
So from outside, Andre, we said that we'll anytime, this time of the day, there's nothing going on here. So facility-wise, we'll always make something available.
Yeah,
for any
that
events
is
like that.
yeah, that is also a big requirement is actually getting a facility.
Technology-wise,
Yeah. So if we can, if this is a good venue for everybody to get to, and I mean for this, I know there's I don't know if they're actually here, but people RSVP'd from Kimberley. So and there's actually people that is coming through from Lesotho. So there is definitely the interest. We just need to get it going.
The problem is, I mean, there's been a few times that there's summits or conferences or stuff in Johannesburg for 1 day.
Yes.
So to travel my whole team up for 1 day.
Yes,
the
that's
cost is just
yeah. Now that is and it's actually easier because the whole idea behind a chapter meeting is that it will be, first of all, it must be regular. So there will be something for example, in Gauteng, we have a chapter meeting except for December when everybody's on holiday. The other 11 months of the year, the third Thursday of the month, we have a chapter meeting. Everybody knows it's at the Microsoft building. Everybody knows where it is. They can just pitch. So that is the kind of regularity you need. And for that to happen, you need that team to just, and the important thing is, it doesn't help to have one volunteer. You have to have a team, because if that volunteer, that one person is not available that specific day, there must be somebody else to fill in.
No, then I would perhaps consider joining the South African chapter. I'm currently a member of
A PMI member, yeah. No, because, and that is, as I say, that is part of, we are seeing it as the local chapter. We actually, we had the number up there. There's 900 members of the chapter, but there's 3,000 PMI members in South Africa. So where's the other 2,000? Why aren't they members of the chapter? Yes. So that is why we are reaching out to and start providing the value. And if we need to, then because it's geographically dispersed, we need to start using technology to provide that value. Then that is part of what we're looking at as well.
So Johannes, how do we go about setting up this branch? Is there like a formal process? Establish a little steering committee?
Yeah.
And
What we typically, well, first of all, if we can maybe get a list of volunteers, and then either in person or via Skype have a meeting to just see that we get the team together to start it. Yeah, basically yes. Make sure that we've got what we need, and then we can take it from there. That's not a problem.
Maybe suggest, Jan, I don't know if you're willing, I think from the Free State, the University of the Free State side, we could maybe start it here and get other people in. Jan, you have the venues here. We are, I have 6 members on my side.
Mm.
In the university.
Okay.
So we can start here, and anybody else that's willing to join would be great.
Mm.
To get this thing up and running.
Yeah, that's definitely sounds like a good plan to me.
Use it or lose it.
So yeah, that sounds very good, and that is, as I say, because for me personally, I think after the others that we have, the next one is actually Bloemfontein. That's the next obvious choice. So if we can get it started, then
It's
let's.
strange that PE always gets picked.
I think they're a little bit more remote. That's why they more vocal about it. But I will. I have to warn you. It can be a difficult road to travel. PE, we've been struggling for quite some time to actually get it going. So, but let's see what we can do. No.
Just curious, how many PMPs are in the Free State region? Do you know?
Registered.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to be a big driver, right? So, like, without being funny, but if you're going to get the PMPs here, they're going to get them by telling them they can earn PDUs.
Okay.
So, if you can start to look, come to the meetings, you're going to earn PDUs, they're all in.
Yes.
But
Okay. We
how many
don't.
do you have?
I don't have numbers, but we can do a quick estimation. At the moment, out of the 900 registered members, about 15 is from in the Free State, not in Bloemfontein, in the Free State. So if you actually go and expand that to 3,000, then about 45.
So, it shouldn't be impossible, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then if we can get a few more PMPs, then
Well, you can do it both ways, because you can say earn your PDUs or come and learn about or get enough hours to qualify for your PDUs.
so one of the, and this is part of the professional development as well, a PMP is a difficult thing to do. For those that have done a PMP, I think they can attest to the fact that 4 hours, 400 questions, 4 hours, you have to do more than a question a minute. It gets, and if you have to keep on doing it for 4 hours, it gets a little bit tough. So you need a lot of preparation for that, and you need the support. What we are doing as a chapter is we are providing, and we actually had one in PE already, so if there's interest in Bloemfontein, we can have one in Bloemfontein. I don't do it myself, there's another member of the team that does it, but a workshop, a weekend workshop, where we go through all the 11 knowledge areas, we tell you what is the highlights and so forth, and what you need to remember, and we also go through example questions to prepare you to qualify for your PMP. And then the other thing that is also involved there is, because, for example, on the Agile side, there's actually now an addendum to the 6th edition, which is the Agile. How do I do project management in an Agile environment? And why do I need, if I'm building a building, why do I need to be Agile? Small building. The problem is, what we are identifying is what you're building now, in 3 years from now when it's done, is not what you needed anymore. So you need to be Agile. You need to change your specifications as you're going along. And that's the definition of Agile. So it is actually coming, Agile buildings. So also to expand your knowledge in that Agile area and to help you with getting your ACP, your Agile certification as well, that is part of what we are building at the moment. And if we have the interest, so typically when I say interest, I mean more than 10 people willing to spend their weekend with us, then we can have a PMP workshop in Bloemfontein as well. And if we have a venue, but I mean this will be.
Just exclude the CFPM. If we do something like this in this area, not just concentrate on the PMP.
Yes, no, but maybe just for people that are not aware of what exactly I kind of glanced over that. So the idea behind the difference between the PMP and the CAPM is the similarity is it's exactly the same knowledge.
One is theory, one is
Yes. The difference between the exam, because the only difference is when you write the exam, is when you write your CAPM, you have to give what is in your head, the facts, you have to write them down. Well, pick the right options. Whereas when you do your PMP, you're not asked the direct facts, you are asked for interpretations. And those interpretations is based on your experience. So that's why you need the experience. But then also part of the whole certification process is you need to have that 4,500 hours of experience beforehand. 4,500 hours is 3 years.
Like you said, you did the CAPM before you did the
Exactly.
I'm following the exact same.
Yeah. And actually what I found is the CAPM perfectly prepared me for the PMP. I wrote the CAPM. The nice thing about the CAPM is it's only a two-hour, it's a lot shorter than the actual exam, 3 hours. Okay, I can't, this is like 7 years ago. So the CAPM is a lot shorter, but it prepares you for the PMP, because then when you do the PMP, you can just add the theory.
You can mentor the CAPM
Yes.
and prepare them for the CAPM. And then
Yeah, yeah.
should go on
So
farther.
yeah, to get back to your original question, when we have the workshop, that will be a PMP as well as CAPM workshop, because the main objective of the workshop is to get the information across. Yeah. Yeah.
Ask a question. Here at the university, we have the accessibility to lynda.com.
Mhm.
And I did really lot of courses now online, but sometimes they stand is endorsed by PMI.
PMI, yes.
Are they going to know I did the course to my benefit, or must I tell them, hey, I did that course and that?
Okay. The way it works, for example, the PDUs that we're looking at the moment. The members that are actually PMPs at the moment can claim for the PDU that they did. I think it's 1.5 PDUs actually for tonight, but they have to claim it on their own. If PMI has any question, they will then come to us, because the event is actually under our name, and they'll ask, this person with this PMI number, did he attend? And we go through our register. That's why the register is important as well. Yes, he attended. So that is the mode in which it happens. Typically, if you do your PMP, for example, that 4,500 hours, okay, I didn't have to do it for the PMP, but I did the ACP later on, and I was audited for it. So you actually fill in online, you fill in a spreadsheet that tells you that where you say my 2,500 hours or my 4,500 hours, I did this project for so long, this project for so long, etc. And then if they audit you, you have to provide the proof. And part of that proof is, for example, the 23 hours of management. So then if you have the lynda.com certification, you say I did, well, when you do your submission, you actually say this is the certification I did, and you then have to prove it. But that doesn't always happen. They don't always audit you. But then if you have a certificate, then they'll just ask you, just send them a copy of the certificate, or a reference from normally they ask for your results, your what your marks was and so forth, if you were with the institution. So for example, for my ACP, I did a course with a registered REP, and I actually just gave the name of the course, and at the end they gave me a certificate. I sent the certificate in, and that was fine. So there might be questions, but it's easy to answer those questions. That's basically what it boils down to.
So that 4,500 hours won't necessarily just be work experience. It can also be training experience.
Okay, let maybe I promised I will go through that as well, and I didn't actually.
I think that's quite a burning question.
Yes. So the 4,500 hours is basically 3 years worth of work. The full requirement is 4,500 hours and 3 years of project management experience. But it's kind of the same request, or the same requirement. What they will be asking you is, you don't have to be a project manager for 3 years, but you have to be part of a project team, and you have to have gone through the 5 stages in that 3 years, you have to have spent some time on all 5 of the stages of the project. So that is from initiation all the way through to closing. If you've done that and you can prove that, that's it, that qualifies.
You don't have to prove on every single knowledge area.
No, not on the knowledge area, on the stages,
The process groups.
the process groups, yes. Yeah.
If my math is correct, with overtime, it's 2,250 hours. Or one and a half years.
Yes, yeah.
With overtime.
But unfortunately, you have to spread it over. That's the second. The second requirement is you have to spread it over 3 years.
That's why it is 40 hours consequential.
Yeah.
Is it retrospective or from the day you passed the exam?
No, this is in the last 8 years. So you can go back 8 years, and you don't need to already have a project management qualification. So what you can typically do is, if you already have 3 years of project management experience, the tricky part is project managers normally change jobs quite frequently because the project is finished after 3 months, so you go on to the next project, especially if you in agile type environment. If they do an audit, you need to be able to prove that the project you did 3 years ago, while you actually did it. And that proof means you need to go to your old boss and say, can you please sign here that I was here? So you need to keep tabs on that old boss if you're not in the same job anymore. So that makes it a little bit complicated. But if you have that, so the important part is go through your experience. If you have the 4,500 hours and you can prove it if you get audited. The first, when I did my PMP, I wasn't audited. But when I did my ACP, which is actually I wouldn't say a smaller certification, I was audited for that. So it depends on what it looks like. But you don't need to first get your your CAPM, then do your 3 years, and then do your PMP. It's just, in my case, it worked like that. But that's not a requirement, no. There was a question? Okay, that's actually an interesting question. So there's scholarship programs that the PMI actually give. I will have to find out for you what is currently are there, because they will give you research topics. So I don't have that with me at the moment. I will have to find that out. But I can give you information on that. But for example, if you want to do a master's degree or something where you need to do a dissertation, there are scholarship programs that you can actually join, and then provide that scholar or that work that you've done to the PMI for, and I actually think you get some remuneration for it, or sponsorship, bursary for it. So maybe we can just, I don't have the information with me at the moment, but I can definitely send you some information on that.
And if it's on that write-up for that 4,500 hours, it's always good to use the processes associated to
Mm.
the process, the process is associated to the process group.
Yes.
When you do that write-up,
Mm.
in order to demonstrate
That you actually did.
different
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah. So when you fill in that form, what Peter is referring to is when you fill in that form, so you've got your 5 process groups. When you fill in the form, you say, okay, I worked for this project, I worked 2,000 hours, and this is what I did in initiation, this is what I did in monitoring and controlling, and this is what I did in closing. Then the next one you go on and you divide it like that, just to show that you actually did it. And the thing is, the better thought out that filling in process is, the more likely it is that you won't get audited. Although they say it's a it's a random process, I'm not quite so sure about that, because if you write that correctly, the chances that you get audited is smaller. It's my experience. Yes?
My name is Maxwell Zavaya.
Yes.
Harmony Good Mind.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to find out what is the body, the PMI South Africa, what are we doing to encourage the PMPs? Because I think the focus as the body should be to enhance the growth,
Mm-hmm.
the growth parts of those members. What are we doing to enhance the growth part of the members? That
Well,
Leo members start coming, because if we don't have this drive, we are members, you can see where PMI is assisting members to hit the major projects.
mm,
And you can see that, yeah, being a member, recommendations are coming because you are a member, because PMP should be handling this project.
yeah,
It's not so.
it's not
So
happening
what
at the
are we
moment
doing to make sure
to change that.
because if more PMPs are handling major projects, I can guarantee you more people want to get PMP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone.
It is,
what are we
at the moment, it is one of our biggest challenges in South Africa. The PMP certification is not that well known, and it doesn't have a SAQA score. So, I was waiting for the question and nobody's asked it yet, so I'm going to answer it now in any case. I often get the question, but I'm already a member of the engineering, professional engineer. So why do I need a PMP as well? And to a certain degree, that is something that we as a PMI need to work on, and we are actively working on that to work with SAQA to actually get the PMP to be rated on SAQA. But another part of it is we need to, in order to get the PMPs to be better valued, we need to show that they actually make a difference. So we need to get the awareness, and the PM Summit is an example of that, where we are communicating to the environment in South Africa. This is what a PMP can provide you. It is going to be a long process, but we are engaging in that. And to also get that recognition, and that is part of Harmony Gold, for example. If you give me that name, I can give it to our outreach, because we want to reach out to the corporates as well, to start making them aware of what a PMP is and what actually the advantages of having PMPs in your environment is. And also, because for example, in the US, you can't do a government project if it's above a certain value. You can't do a government project if you don't have a PMP. We need to get to that stage. And that's exactly what you are referring to. And once you start seeing, but when there's a PMP involved, it actually works, the project works, then we'll get that growth. But it is a bit of a challenge at the moment. And there are various other organizations in South Africa that is also providing the PM project management support. That is kind of a tap dance going on at the moment around who is actually who should be leading the project management profession within South Africa. And it is a very big challenge for us. We are working on getting but in the end, it is around getting people to understand what a PMP actually means. Because it's not, the problem with a PMP is it is not really a degree. It's not something you go and study at a university. It's a skill. It is something you have to have that experience. So it's not that easy to define it, and people don't understand, but I do projects. Why do I need a PMP? But the PMP prepares you for what if this happens. You already have a set of tools. You can just take the tool out. You don't have to go and make the tool first. That's basically, and that's the important part that we need to get to start teaching the people about and get the awareness of what the PMP actually means.
And is there any platform for data collection on this? If you say you want to show the industry differentiation between a project run by a PMP person and a non-PMP, do we collect that data? How do we show that?
It's not being collected in South Africa at the moment, but it is worldwide. There is actually data available.
And is it some something we can clone in South
Yes.
Africa and get that?
Well, okay, let me put it differently. We have data for South Africa, but it's not done by a South African organization. It's done by PMI International. And you can segregate that into the different countries. So there is information like that. We just need to start engaging with the corporates so that they can understand. But this is what this is the difference, because we actually, as I mentioned, there's proof, scientific proof, that if you have more than a third of your project managers are PMPs, you actually get better results. At the moment, that information is gathered worldwide. We just need to focus it on South Africa specifically. Yes. Yeah, yeah. That is, and that is part of the talks around the SAQA, getting the SAQA rating for a PMP, to actually, so that, because the moment that happens, you start getting a relationship. So what is the difference? What is the relationship between me having a PMP and me having an MBA? That kind of a dynamic. And yeah, we are busy engaging in it, but it is unfortunately a drawn-out process. It's actually, I don't know if have you met Lynn? That's our new president. She's actually engaging with various boards and associations on that specific matter to get the SAQA rating for a PMP.
And is it currently just a process or a project? Is there any timelines on that? When we expect? Just wondering.
Unfortunately, when you're working with government, it's it's a process. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that is, we call them a REP, a registered education providers. So that is part of what the university, UFS, is registered, or the business school is a registered education provider. We have various of them across the country as well, where you can get this training. And if you do your education, that 23 hours with a REP, it's almost automatic that you'll get the credit for it. If it's not with an REP, then you might have to prove, or they might ask for what was the syllabus and so forth. But if it is an REP, then it means they've already done the paperwork. You can just add it to your application. Yes, yeah, and that 23 hours is with the REP, and for the PMP, what was it, 35 hours? That is also with an REP. Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. We can. There is actually a list of REPs on the PMI website, the PMI South Africa website. So I don't have the URL anywhere written down, but it is pmi.org.za. And there's also a list on the PMI website, which is just pmi.org, but that's worldwide. But on the South African website, there is a list of REPs and where they are situated. Mm. Yeah, yeah. But for example, if you do the workshop, it's not 35 hours, but it is 23 hours. For the workshop we provide, that counts as 23 hours as well. for the CAPM.
Also, there's no conflict between the one on the internet where the PMI is offering for the online one and
No, no, it's the same process. The thing is just quite often people don't have, you need that discipline to actually do the 23 hours if you're online. Whereas if it's a face-to-face, it's all happening in one weekend, then you get that going faster. Okay.
The difference between project management courses and a workshop to get you through the test.
Mm.
You just need to make that distinguish between those two. It serves different purposes. The one that is actually PMP test oriented
Mm-hmm.
coaches you
How to write the exam.
to write the test and how to best prepare to pass
Mm.
the test.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't offer that.
But for example, the workshop we provide is that's what it's geared at. So the how this started off is there's in Johannesburg there's actually 3 or 4 different REPs, but what they found is that PMP candidates come to the course, do it with the REP, and then straight from there go and write the exam, and then they fail. So they started asking, but why? And the reason is that after you've done the course, you still need to do study work, about a month's worth of study work to actually get all of that information, because it's not possible to get all of it in class. You actually have to go home and study for it. And the workshops grew out of study groups that was created to get the people to get through the process, to get that information into their heads.
And can you volunteer to present at one of these workshops to, on the other end, again, earn PDUs?
Yes, yes. If you are a PMP, and if you are PMP, you can come and stand in 2 months from now. You can come and stand on the day on the. You can actually.
She's been audited.
Actually, if you have a PMP, if you want to earn PDUs for presenting a course, if you provide a course or a presentation, you can't get any compensation for it. So Dion can't get PDUs for it. But if you provide the course free of charge as a volunteer, then you get a PDU for the event, and you get 2 PDUs for the preparation. So that's 3 PDUs in one go. And the important part here is what this is all about is sharing knowledge, because each of us in our environments come across different problems, and you're going to have a way in which you are going to solve that problem. And somebody else might have something similar, and if you can share that knowledge, that's how you grow. So that is part of what we are trying. And for a Free State chapter or branch, what we need is, because it's very difficult to get people from Johannesburg to come and speak in Bloemfontein. But if you have people in Bloemfontein that's willing to speak, then yes, then it also immediately solves the problem. And if you have if you've done your dissertation, that's also a very good thing to come and speak on.
You should do it on this agility thing. Teach us all about it.
Yes?
Upon completion of the APM of IPM,
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently doing it now.
Yes.
What kind of a
Um,
You're doing about 700 hours
mm,
educational work. So, in terms of the academic requirements for either the CIPM or the PMP,
it ticks the box, but the problem is, do you have the knowledge? Because it doesn't actually, the course that the APM does is not specifically going through each one of those tasks on the PM box. You still need to get that in, so you still have to study, but you do have the 35 hours that you need.
So is there specific certification, or do we have to sit for any of this
You can go and sit for the examination if you have the hours, the experience hours as well. You can go and sit for the examination. But if you must be very careful to make sure that you have the knowledge in your head. That's you'll have to. Normally, what I found for myself is after I'd done my course, I still had a month worth of studying every evening for 2 to 3 hours before I could actually write the PMP. So that's the kind of work you still have to do. It's unfortunately not, if you pass this course, that you will pass the PMP as well. Do you have 4,500 hours of experience as a project manager? Well, then I would go for the PMP, because the CAPM, you only have you can't renew it. It expires after 5 years, and it's the same amount of work. Well, it's if you don't have the 4,500 hours, then I would go for a CAPM, because then you get that foundation. And the important thing about a CAPM is it's an associate certification. So you showing that you are willing to work with project managers. So that's where it originally comes from. It also shows your willingness to be a project manager. So in my case, I'm a software developer by trade. Actually, I have an engineering degree in electronics. I worked for Denel for 9 years as a software developer, and then I worked for various banks and so forth. But I never had the project management experience. So how did I get the project management experience? Well, you have to be employed as but how, after 15 years as a software developer, why would I now all of a sudden become a project manager? So I did my CAPM, and because of that, I started getting jobs as a project manager. So if that is your situation at the moment, then the first thing to do is to have a CAPM, and then that also prepares you for your PMP when you do it 3 years later. But if you already have the project management experience, then go for the PMP. It is going to be more difficult. I would say you need about 30% more work for the PMP over the CAPM. Just getting the knowledge in, because it's about 30% more knowledge you need to gather. But if you have that, then go for the PMP immediately. Okay. So how it works is when you register, you go online onto the PMI website, you register, you fill in your form where you say this is how many hours I have and so forth. When you actually register, it says, okay, you can now write your exam. This is a list of the places where you can go and write your exam, and from that date, you've got a year. You can fail the exam twice in that year, and still go and write it the third time. But every time you fail it, you need to pay for there's an examination fee, so you have to pay that examination. But you can keep on trying it 3 times, basically, in that 1 year. Yeah. It is. Yeah. I would, to give you an example for my CAPM, now the CAPM is about half a PMP. The CAPM, I actually waited a year to actually write my exam. Because the thing is, if you're busy with, you've got a job, you need to keep that up as well, you often don't get the time. So I would rather make sure that when you write it the first time, make sure you pass it. Then it's over. Then you don't need to sit that 4 hours again. Because believe me, that is, and the thing about the exam is you sit there, it's a computer screen, there's a camera here to see that you don't have any notes. When you get there, they've got a little box that you take out your car keys and your cell phone and whatever. They lock it up with the only thing you can take into the room is that key that locks up your your possessions in the box. Then you write the exam. You can go for a smoke break or to the bathroom or whatever, but every time you go out and when you come in, you have to sign in again, and you have to show the other thing you take along is your ID, because they want to see your picture and your signature. So you must take your license, your driver's license, not your ID book, because your ID book doesn't have a signature. You need to sign. That is the kind of security that is involved. It's not a nice environment. You don't want to do it the second time, believe me. And the worst part of all is after that 4 hours, then it says, okay, you say, okay, I'm done now. I've done the 4 hours. And now it's busy marking while you wait there, it's busy marking your exam. And you've got that screen, that thing that goes around and around and around. And they say it's 5 seconds. It feels like 5 days for that thing to say you've passed or you haven't passed. So it's something you don't want to do it a second time, believe me. Yeah. And just on that matter, when you write the exam, it's kind of a contradiction. When you provide your experience, it's measured according to the process groups. But when you write the exam, it's measured according to the knowledge areas, the 11 knowledge areas. And you have to pass each one, or each knowledge area. If you have 90% in 10 of them, and you have 50% in one of them, you fail. So you can't spot. Believe me, you can't spot. And they will ask you about everything. You need to have all of that information. And that's part of when you do that's why you need to do something like the workshop. When you do that workshop, it gives you, we go through training techniques that actually helps you to write that exam. There's what we call a mind dump. So when you get into the exam room, after you've now put all your stuff away into the box, you get one piece of paper and a pen and a eraser, I think. You don't get a calculator. There's a calculator on the computer. Then what you do is you've got 15 minutes before you actually start writing the exam, where you now can get to know the environment and how the computer works and all that kind of stuff. During that 15 minutes, you take your mind up and you write it down on the piece of paper. And that information, whatever you brought in your head, you can write down on a piece of paper. And that is how you answer, because the exam is so quick, you get confused. But if you've written it from your mind dump, your original mind dump, before you got confused, if you wrote your mind dump down, then you can remember it, because you can just go and see where it is. So there's a bit of a technique, and that's maybe part of what we actually train you to do on on preparing for the exam. There is simulation questions as well, yes. So but the thing is, you're not allowed to take photographs or anything like that when you're writing the exam. And I think there is a non-disclosure agreement as well. So you're not supposed to report, this is the questions. But what some of the REPs do is they give you example questions. This is the kind of questions you can expect. So you can actually download from the internet 500 questions that you can expect. And then you can go and write your own exam, your own mock exam, to see, do you at least get 70% for the exam as part of your preparation process. Yes, yeah. So there's various resources and normally when you work through an REP, you get those resources as well. I've got like 20 CDs from the REP that I worked with for my PMP. But unfortunately, those questions are 4th edition, so they're not useful anymore. It's like comparing apples and pears. They're not the same. Your master's degree or any degree, any academic degree, is knowledge. and Dion, you must correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's knowledge. Your PMP is experience. The two of them makes, when you add the two together, you actually get more back than what they are separately worth. So I wouldn't say the one is worth more than the other. And I'm not going to say don't do your master's degree, rather do your PMP, because you need both of them. To a certain extent, they do help each other in the sense that the master's degree will prepare you in the knowledge, on the knowledge side of the PMP, and the PMP will prepare you to apply your master's degree knowledge. But they're two different things. Yeah, sure. That's why we're here. Actually, if you have something to add, please do.
I think from my own experience, the PMP, what has done for me is that as a PMP, you become an all-rounder.
Yes.
In terms of, because when you occupy a position, wherever you're working, you're not just going to focus on your area of expertise. That's your area where your strength is. That's not going to. It's going to be a lot of things you're looking at. It's going to look at how you manage the procurement. You may not have done procurement, but the PMP, when you do your PMP, it's going to open you up into procurement processes. It's going to open you up into how you communicate with your team. Makes you a better team leader. When it comes to managing your team, human resources, it opens you up into just stakeholders. How you manage your stakeholders, it opens you up into it. But when you do your masters, these things are not taught there. But the PMP will show you how to deal with all these areas. At the end of the day, when you are now occupying a position where you need to make decisions, you make better decisions. And believe you me, in fact, you just become, it's going to make you a star. Among every other stars. You just come out. Because the way you handle things is different. That's what the PMP does for you. You become a star. It's not just opens you up. And that's what the PMP does for you.
It also helps with the collaboration environment where you see other people discussing the issues concerning the project from different areas.
Yeah, and that's part of why the chapter meetings is so important, because you get exposed to other project managers. The thing about project management is it is a generic skill, but it is also a specialized skill. And there's specialized knowledge. One project manager talking to another project manager is different about project management, is different from you talking to a stakeholder that doesn't know anything about project management. And the ability to share knowledge with other project managers that understand your problem. That is where the big thing about, and the PMP is based on that knowledge. The one other thing, for example, the example of you've never done in your job as a project manager, you've never done procurement. There's a procurement department that does that, so why would you be interested? Now all of a sudden you get to a new job, and you're supposed you asked to do procurement. What do? You've never done this. The PMP says it's one of your knowledge areas, but you've actually never done it before. And that is when you dive into projectmanagement.com and you do a binge watch for the next 20 hours. It's not going to necessarily answer all your questions, but at least you know what procurement is about. That's where that extra training comes in. So it's, and that's part of the additional value that the PMI wants to add to your career.
Does it accelerate you from the position that you are in?
Makes you more proficient.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to answer you from my personal experience. I saw two things happen when I got my PMP. The first is I had the knowledge in the job I was at that point. I had the knowledge to answer questions which I couldn't answer before. So all of a sudden, people started looking at me and saying, how do you know that? And then I could say, well, here it is, written down. Or here's the example, here's this case study. And then they all of a sudden sat back and said, okay, well, We're talking to a different Janus than what we talked to 6 months ago. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens. It accelerates you in that sense. The second thing, specifically in the IT industry, I've worked on projects where I was specifically hired for the fact that I have a PMP. And it wasn't the hiring company that was requiring it. It was the sponsor, the client, that said, you are not going to get the contract unless you hire a PMP. And this was an international project. So that is when you start. Unfortunately, it's a South African company that hired me, but I was working for the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Our client was the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. So the moment you start stepping into that arena, it starts getting very important. As I added, we're having at the moment the project. There's a conference happening in Mauritius at the moment. Our president is there. She's presenting on what we're talking about on this topic of the academic outreach in Mauritius. A South African, an African conference where there's chapters all over Africa, and we're creating new chapters. So actually moving into Africa, the PMP is going to become more and more important as well. The moment you start involving the bigger players, your PMP, they start asking, do you have a PMP? And if you do a tender, and you can say, well, this is the PMP that will be managing your tender or your project. If you give us the tender, then you get more points. So that is the opportunities. Unfortunately, it's not going to be like that, and it's just going to happen. You'll still have to prove yourself, but you've got the ability to prove yourself. Yeah, you create the opportunity to, and when that opportunity falls in front of you, you know what to do about it. You're not going to say, oh, but I'm not sure what to do now, and go, try and do something that you're not comfortable with. Okay, I'm happy to keep on talking. But I think we're getting to a time that we need to maybe start finishing off. From the easiest is join the PMI. Unfortunately, we're having problems. We are trying as a chapter to actually start up a bookstore that you can get a print copy if you want a print copy. The other option is but the thing is it's $130 to join the PMI. So that's a little bit expensive just to have one PDF. You get a lot of other PDFs, but if you're going for that one specific PDF, but if you are a member of the PMI, you get all of that documentation for free. The PMI member is $129 per year, and then you get free access to everything, except the exam. The exam you have to pay for still. That's if you the REP is actually import the PM BOK and provide you with a print copy as well. What they do is they provide you when you join the PMI, you sign up with a username and password, and they sign that PDF copy with your password. So if you want to give other people your password, you can give them your PDF as well. So that's how they. But you can. I've got a PDF on that laptop. Well, it's not here. Yeah, and at the bottom, so if you start spreading it, they're going to blacklist you. So at the bottom of the PDF is this copy is licensed to so and so, and his PMI number is this, and it's your password, so they can track it. But you can get it in PDF format if you pay for it. And actually, you can join the website for free. Okay, pmi.org. You can join it right now. If you want to be a PMI member, $129 per year. If you want to be a member of the South African chapter as well, if you're currently a student, it's $5 extra. If you are not a student, it's $30 extra per year. But there's no requirements. You can sign up online. And the one thing that is important, if you are planning to do your PMP, if you do your PMP, I don't have the prices in front of me, but it's worthwhile to join as a member of the PMI. That's why we've got more PMPs than what we have PMI members. Because what happens is, if you join the PMI this year and you sign up for your PMP, you pay less. The difference between your PMP examination fee, if you are a PMI member, is more than what your PMI sign-up costs is. It's actually worthwhile to join and then you get the PMBOK for free as well, included in that whole package. So what happens is a lot of people, they sign up for the PMI, they become a member, they do their PMP, and then they don't renew. Because for that 1 year, it is more. But if you look at the ease with which you can then maintain your PM, because now, if you don't have that access, in my specific case, if I didn't have that access to projectmanagement.com, especially because at one stage I was not in South Africa more than half of the year, not for 6 months in one go, but when I was working in New Zealand, I would leave the country for 7 weeks at a time. So then you can't do the things at home that you normally do. And if you have that PMI access, then you get all that education to renew your PDUs and so forth, you get for free. If you're not a PMI member, then you have to do courses at REPs to get the PDUs. No, that's free then. It's electronic. Are you a member of the PMI? No, then you should. Yeah, no, it's easy. Yeah, there's actually 6 or 7 books that you can download. As I say, it gets watermarked with your name and whatever, and you have to remember your password. So do you still remember your PMI password? Then you can open it. Yeah. Mm. Yes. And the nice thing is, I actually want to do that conference, but I don't have to. It's happening in US hours, so it's probably, I don't know exactly when it starts. Yeah, 11 o'clock tonight for 6 hours. So luckily, my weekend starts when I leave here, so it's not a problem. I'm going to visit my mother, and she's going to be upset if I'm not awake tomorrow morning. So I can't watch it tonight, but I can go and watch it in 6 different sessions when I get back home. And I still get my 6 PDUs for it. So that is the nice part about, and it makes it so easy to, everybody says, but the 6 PDUs, we actually get people that we need to remind them, listen, you've got 2 months left, and you need your 60 PDUs, and we can see on the system you only have 20. So you need to start making a plan, you're going to do. But it's so easy to actually, if you just watch a video. 60 PDUs means you need 20 PDUs per year. 60 PDUs in 3 years means you need 20 PDUs per year. So you need to watch 2 videos a month. Then you're done. It's all online. So if you watch the video, if you start it from the beginning, you watch it all the way through, it gets automatically logged for you. The next day you get an email, your PDU has been accepted. And what I do actually, I don't know if you do the technology, you get these, what's these things you hook up with your TV? Chromecast, yes. I've got a Chromecast. I go into the hotel room. I'm busy cooking, but the TV has got on the video. So I'm watching the video as well. Next day I get my PDU. I'm not going to answer that. But yes, if you really want to. So it is so easy. I don't understand why people don't get the PDUs, because it's so easy. It really is. And if you do one of these events, that is 6 PDUs in one day. I actually went to a conference in Berlin in April, but I didn't get any PDUs for April for the book conference because I already have my 60 PDUs. And I still have 3 months to go before my period expires. It's really the PDUs. If you're a member of the PMI and you get access to those resources, the PDUs are easy. It's not something to be worried about. But if you want to give a course or a...
There's a section that you have there, so your PDUs are divided into certain categories.
Okay.
So you can't just do all 60 in training, unfortunately.
Yes.
A vast majority.
Yeah.
But there's
So,
a portion where you have to give back.
yeah, I don't have a picture of the talent triangle, and it's actually something further to your point as well. Recently, the PMI did a study, and they found that there's actually 3 legs to project management. You've got your technical information, which is how do I do a schedule? How do I do earned value management? All that that's technical. And that you can get from books. But there's 2 other legs to it. That is strategic thinking and leadership. And that you can't get from a book. That you get from experience. Yes. And it's called the talent triangle for that reason. So what they've done recently is, it's now 2 years ago, they actually brought in the changes. You have to, out of that 60 PDUs, you have to have 8 in leadership and 8 in strategy and 8 in technical. So you can't just go and read a lot of books or do a lot of online courses and that's going to solve your problem. However, you can get videos on leadership and then videos on how do I talk to people, like those kind of scary things. And that's part of what the PMI and the PMP provides to you, is that knowledge. To give you a good example, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have stood in front of you like this. That is what being a project manager and having a PMP did for me. Because I was an IT geek. I was one of those people you passed the pizza underneath the door because I wouldn't open it for you. And then I started okay, not that far, but you get the picture. And because I became a project manager, it started equipping me to get along with people. And at the moment, I'm a consultant, and I'm specifically consulting on communication. How do you get your project team to gel? 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So yeah, it is, and that's part of what you get through being a project manager. And the thing is then, immediately, that means when you get presented with a problem like, this is now 2 members are having a fight. 2 members of your project team are having a fight. They can't get along. What do? If you don't have that skill, if you don't have that background, and it's going to take down your project. But if you have the knowledge, And that's what the PMP provides for you. Okay, I think let's call it a close for tonight. I will engage with Dion, and I'll send out an email. Okay, this week I'm on holiday, on a long weekend. But early next week or the week after that, with details on what we can do as far as getting something online, getting a support group up and going on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that. Yeah, do we have a preference? I personally prefer LinkedIn as well. A lot less birthday pictures on LinkedIn. But yeah, so we can get that going, and then we're definitely looking at something in November again. Well, what we'll do is, because there's going to be some, on the PMI notification through the PMI mailing list, we are sending out these invitations because we're reaching out to non-chapter members as well. We're sending out to the bigger list. We've got a small list and a big list, so we're sending out to the bigger list. But what we'll specifically do is, because there's a few people here that isn't on our mailing list. So if I have your permission, I will include everybody that is actually present today in that mail, and then we can send it out to everybody.